Hello, this is Sherry Mugo with the Formilae team, and in this video we're going to walk through the different configurations that are available for the Form Builder tool. So in your administrative dashboard, when you log in, to get to the Form Builder tool, go to Application Setup. You can either immediately start building your form, or you can set up a service or a survey header record to link that form to it. So in this tutorial, what we'll do is we'll immediately start building the form by clicking on Form Setup and Form Builder. So when you first come to the Form Builder, you'll get a blank form, and you may see links for recent forms that you've built in the Form Builder tool, and you can quickly click on those to modify those. So let's get rid of that, and let's start building a new form. So for form code, each form is required to have a unique identifier. Um, it's mainly important for government forms for those using the portal. So for forms like the I-130, which have different form codes or unique form codes, the I-485, the I-485J, that's where that would be important. And you may find a use for it if you don't use the portal. And you can just you can give it whatever name you want, and you may need use your own personal naming system for your forms. We just require that it is unique across each form. Then you can give your form a name, which will be displayed above the form as a header. But it is only displayed for forms that are not embedded into your web page. If you're going to provide a link to the form outside of your web page, there will be a header at the top. But for embedded forms, we choose to hide it so that you can have flexibility for what goes around your form in your web page. In a text, this is the text that you want your users to place in the field if the field is not optional, but you do want to allow them to specify that the field is not applicable. It will only accept this text if they leave it blank, then this is what it'll accept. If your form will generate a PDF, what that means is you have a fillable PDF that you have, and you want, after the web form is filled out, for the data to be inserted into a fillable PDF. If you're going to be doing that, you would need to enable this. And then there's some additional configurations that are needed for that. And we will do a separate tutorial for converting your web form to PDF. So for your first question, you would need to choose a question type. And here you will see the different types of question types that we have. We have all your basic fields that you normally see when you're filling out a form on the internet, and then we have other special types which we'll go through. Some of them we already have separate tutorials on, like uh, the the multi-question group. You can see a separate tutorial on that for how to set those up. So let's add a basic text box, which is basically used if you have, um, text fields needed, and you don't need a lot of text. So a person's name, first name, their last name, their city, um, their zip code. So things like that with shorter text will go into a regular text box. And then once you select a question type, you will be able to finish the other configurations. So here's where you'll put your label for the form field. So we'll put first name, and then we'll skip over all the other default settings. We do need to give it a section name. You can choose to have multiple sections in a form. Like if your form has lots and lots of questions, like we have some forms that are 20 pages, or for government forms, you want to separate the questions into sections, and they'll be across multiple pages. So, but if you don't plan on doing that, you have maybe 3 or 4 fields, like a contact us form. You probably don't want to use sections, but you do need to give it a name if you're going to use sections, or if you're not going to use section. So give it a name and then click hide sections, and you won't have to enter a section name each time you enter the question. So for this tutorial, we're going to use sections, and we're going to put the first name in the personal details section and then click save. So that's how easy it is to, because you may have seen so many different configurations that are available, but it's easy to set up, your basic things. Just skip over everything by default. And later on, you may realize you need something specific for your form. Like, I only want my users to enter numbers in this field. So, and then you realize, oh, well, there's some configuration available for that, um, which is here, numbers only. So don't be intimidated by the different configurations that are available. When you have a need for it in the future, you'll learn to appreciate what's here, and then you'll go back and find, oh, that's how I do that, and the feature is already there for me to do. So when you sign up for Formilae, your first forms are free. You can have our form builders build the form for you, uh, and for free users, I believe it's like 10 forms. We'll set up 10 forms for you. Small business users, like 25 forms. So we are here to assist you if you need help building your forms. And just for watching this video, I'm going to give you uh, a little information. One day you will be able to type what you want to Ferris and tell him, please build me a form for this, and he will build the form for you. So we are working on AI tools to where you won't even have to use the tool too much. You can just speak to Ferris and he'll build the form for you, and then you'll be able to click publish here. Okay, so we just entered the first name, and once you add your question, you'll see a preview for it, and then you'll see icons to modify the question. So you can make the question inactive later on, or you can click this icon to, oh, we need to cancel out of here first. And this is where you would come to modify things that you've already entered. So you may want to come back and say, I don't want to allow max 75 characters. You may want to increase it to 75. It was previously 50. And you want to make it optional, like you don't care if the user doesn't enter anything, so you would check optional and then click save, and then you can delete the question. There's the delete icon. So let's add another question. This time we'll add a radio button list. A radio button list is useful if you have multiple selections that you want to specify for the user and you only want them to select one of them. So for this case, let's do, what is your gender? This is a great example because you only have two genders. So when you go down to add the selections for gender, we're going to enter male and then female. And so this is the perfect case where you would use radio button list because you only have two choices. We're going to put it in the personal details section and then click save. So the user can only select one of the options. Now if you have a case where the user can select multiple things, for example, we'll say in that case you would select checkbox group, and then you may want to ask them things like, do you have any of the below medical issues? And then same thing as before, you enter the options available. So we'll say allergies, heart condition. So you can enter as many as you want, and then you need to add it to a section. This time we'll add it to a new section called medical history. and then we'll click Save. So now if you're allowing them to select multiple things, then a radio button list would not be appropriate. So we're allowing them to select multiple things. They might have multiple medical issues. So as you can see, we're using sections. So what that means in the form, that it'll be a multi-page form, and page 1 will have personal details, page 2 will have medical history. There'll be buttons at the bottom of the form, save and continue, or continue. So if you want to modify the section name, you can do that by clicking the icon here. And then you have other sorting options. You can resort the section. You can put directions at the header of each section. So let's do that. And then click Save. So this is the use of the header text. And then this is the use of the footer text. And most fields you can use HTML if you like. Some of them you can't, some of them you can't. So let's see. You can test it to see. I'll do italic. See what happens. If you can't, it'll tell you and it'll throw an error. So it looks like the footer you can. So let's save it and see our italic text. So there's the HTML formatting that we added, which is optional. Another thing I saw in section is conditional settings. You can choose to hide a section by default, and it'll only be visible if they answer a question in a certain way. So for example, so we'll add in the first section, we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We'll add a radio button list, yes, no. You'll learn about that. Do you have any medical issues? And this is appropriate for a radio button list, but it's pre-built, so you don't have to enter yes and no values. So this may happen a lot in your forms where you just have a yes no question. So you can skip this in that case and check yes no. You can even change the wording. We had one case where we were doing an Uber inspection report where the person filling out the form checks if if they're inspecting the tires. Did the tire pass this inspection? Yes or no? But we wanted to change the words to pass or fail instead of yes or no. So you can do that as an option. And whenever we had that radio button list, when the form is rendered, you won't see yes and no text. You'll see pass and fail text. So our question is, do you have any medical issues? We're going to put that in the personal details section. And then click Save. And then for medical history, we'll only show this section if they select yes for do you have any medical issues. So you select the question that determines whether the section is going to be displayed or not, and the answer. So it'll only be displayed. And click Save. You get a badge here, and that means that you can't preview it right now, but when you publish the form, this section won't show up for the user unless they answer yes to this question. Conditionals can also be set up for within the page, for questions within the page. So let's add a pull down, and we'll ask what state do you live in? So let's ask that. Now, the same as radio button lists and multi-question, checkbox groups, you do need to enter your choices for your pull down. But in this case, since we're doing a U.S. state, we will select state pull down, and then we won't have to manually enter all 50 states. So it's a pre-built pull down. And so we'll do that, and then we'll enter in personal details section, and then click save. So now you have a pull down with all the U.S. States in it. And then you may want another pull down. Let's add another pull down. So you may have a situation where you want to uh, for them to select their health care provider. Certain states only have like Florida has Florida Blue. So this in this one we'll do an example of you manually entering your. So you're going to do a new choice list, and then we're going to call it health care providers. And then here's where you add your choices. So we'll do Florida Blue. And then we'll do maybe Freedom. And then you need to save it. Now for pull downs values, these values can be saved and used for later. So you'll have an official healthcare provider list that you will see in the choice list manager. And you should see that menu here. So you can see that we added healthcare providers, and you can come here and modify it. So here are the entries that we just added. And then in future form builder forms that you build within the tool, the next time you add a pull down, you can just select from a list of choice lists. But we just added one on the fly, and we're going to add it to personal details, and then click save. So now we're going to make this conditional. We're going to only make this show if they select Florida. So we're going to go here. We could have done it while we were adding it, but I'm going to demonstrate how to do it as an edit. So we go to add dependency question, and then we select, we're going to do it based on what state they live in. Let's see what that is. Okay, so you select what state you live in, and then or the question where that will determine whether the field will be displayed or not, and then choose the answer, and then submit, and then save. So now you have the conditional badge, and in the published version, you can't preview here. In the published version, when the form is first submitted, this won't be visible until they select Florida in the state pull down. Okay, while we're here in the preview section, we have an undo button. If you wish to undo the last thing that you did, which is available, and you can save your changes for later. So let's save it now. And then if you were to leave the form builder tool and come back later, it will still be here. You would need to publish it if you wish to make it live. And then keep in mind that once a form is published, you need to link it to either a service or a survey. And I have another video that explains the difference between the two. Okay, so let's try another question type. Let's try checkbox single. If you have like a reason to ask them a question and they only check the box if it's true. So we'll do, uh, let's try that one. And then we'll place that in personal details section. And so if you only have a need for them to select one checkbox acknowledging something, that's when the single checkbox would be appropriate. Okay, so let's try uh, a text area. So a text area is appropriate if you have a lot of text to collect from the user. So uh, by default, it's 500 characters is the max, and you can raise it. I believe the maximum amount that you can raise it to is 1,000. It may be greater than that. Let's test it. So let's put 50,000 and see what it says. Yeah, so it's 1,000. So again, default is 500. And so here is a regular text box where you only have shorter text expected. And this actually, where you enter the label, is a text area. So this is exactly what it'll look like once you have it, place it here. So for this one, we'll say, please explain your allergies. And then we're going to place it in the medical history. And we'll only display it if they say they have allergies. So we'll select allergies. So that one we just made it conditional. And so if they select allergies in the live form, this section will only show if they have allergies. Alright, so before we go on to other question types, let's go over some of these different configurations. I believe we went over numbers and integers and form format. Header text we went over. Max characters is how many characters are allowed in the field. By default, we fill it into 50. Optional, if you want to throw an error if they don't enter anything. So then you would leave that unselected if you don't care about it. If they can leave it empty, you can check this box. And then here, we're enforcing whether we are going to be allowed not applicable text, which is here. If you don't want to, like if you're going to make the fill optional, it doesn't matter. But if it's required and you're going to allow them to enter NA instead of uh, leaving it blank, then that's what this is for. When enabled, the user is asked to specify not applicable or NA if the field is required. If leaving this disabled, the user will not be asked to enter NA if not applicable, if they try to submit the form and it's empty. Next is subheader text. So if you have multi-page forms, subheaders would probably be important. So let's see. I'll think of a subsection. We'll put a subsection in the medical history section involving the actual massage. So we'll say have you ever had a massage before? And then we'll do a yes, no. And it's going to go medical history. And then we're going to divide it into its own subsection. We'll say so as you can see, it's available in the preview already. And then we'll click save. So it's just a way of organizing things. And in this menu, if you have multiple, you might have a lot of questions on a form. And if you have multiple questions, you want to divide them into subsections, there'll be hyperlinks to where it'll push them down to that section. And then each section, you can choose to have an arrow that'll take them back to the top. You can modify and change it. And here's where you would determine whether you're going to show. You can hide the arrow if you want to. So this arrow disappeared. And then we won't go over these other configurations, but there's info text in here that explains. You can put directions. I'll fill that in. And then you can also, if you don't want it anymore, you can remove the subsection quickly. Okay, and so next is, let's do date picker. Date picker is it's the same as a text box. So if you have you want to collect a date from the user, it's going to look just like a text box, but when you click on it, a calendar is going to appear, and validation is going to occur to ensure that it's a proper date format. So enter your date of birth. And then there's, as you can see, different configurations appropriate for a date picker are available. And you can choose a date format to enforce. Like if you're overseas, you might want this format. And you can default the value to today. When they first enter the form, it'll be pre-populated with today's date to help them out. You can enforce a minimum year. They can't go before a certain year. Maximum year, they can't go too far ahead. Default year is when they, let's add it to the preview section so that I can have a visual. So here's the calendar, and you can default the year that it, when you first come to it, it'll default to the current year. So that's what default year. By default, it's the current year, but you can change it if you want. So year max increment, you can choose to allow up to the year, if 20 years after the current year, or actually the max year. So if you enter 2023 here and add 20 years, there are situations where this was needed. Like I said, Formilae is customer-driven software, so you can request features, and there was a one need for this where the current year is the max, but they do want to allow 20 years ahead into the future for just in case. So this means that they will be able to enter dates all the way to 2043. If they were to enter 2000 here, it would accept dates up to 2020. Okay, and then allow text is appropriate if you want to allow text also in the field. For example, you may want to allow TBD or present for, like, if you're asking for their employment start date or end date. If they currently work there, you might want to allow them to enter the words present. You may want to allow them to enter unknown. So any allowed text that is you want to allow them to enter, you would enter a comma list here. And this is the only text that's allowed in the field. By default, NA is allowed in the field unless you disable it. So in this case, we'll disable it, and now this present text is allowed, but NA is not allowed because we just disabled it. And then your other normal fields are here. Next is email text box. Same thing. Email text box will look just like a regular text box, but validation is going to enforce that it's a valid email. It's going to check to see if it's properly formatted as an email. Multi-digit. For example, if you want to ask for their social security number, we'll do a text box. We'll say SSN. And then we're going to only allow, we have to enter each digit. So this may be appropriate if you have a fillable PDF, and in some, like some government forms, you don't have a regular text box for social security number. You might have one box that appears in the form per digit. So it may be a little bit tedious, but it's necessary in certain cases. So social security number has 9 digits, so we're just going to have to enter uh, the digits 9 times. So there's digit 1, digit 2. We need a form label because the form label is going to uh, tell the PDF which form field the data needs to go into. So we won't do all 9 digits uh, for the sake of time. I'm going to put it into personal details. And you can already see a preview over here. I won't save it. So as you can see, when they enter a number, it's going to tab to the next field. So like I said, if you need 9 digits, you'll have to add 9 digits over where we added the digits. So let's cancel out of there. Next is star rating. So this is like good for surveys. Please rate us. And then this is an easy one. And then we'll put it in comments. We're all over the place now. It's not exactly a massage therapy form anymore. But once you add it, you'll get the 5 stars, and they'll be able to select which one they're rating for you. Let's find another one. Consent terms checkbox. So we'll leave these defaults. And let's go and find some dummy text for this one. Require a label that will appear above the... Oh. And then here's where you enter your terms and conditions. And then we're going to put it in another section called terms, and then save. So a lot of forms I see on the internet, they put it on the last page. So that's why I put it on the terms page. And you'll see that the text that you enter for the terms will be read only. They can't modify it, and the only thing they'll be able to do is agree. You can change the text here. You can customize what that says. So we just left the default and then the label above it. So that's that. What else is left? Electronic signature. For the sake of time, you can watch the intake video, which demos that, and you can do a file upload. Let's do this one. So please upload your driver's license. And then you can choose the maximum file size in KB, kilobytes, and then you can choose what file formats are acceptable. And then while we're here, let's look at some of these other things. We've already seen header text, subsection header text, info text. And then, yeah, we'll skip over those and then add it to personal details and then save. So now they'll be able to select a file. And then here's where we filled in the info text. So if you fill in that info text box, there will be a question mark next to it with directions that of your choice for this. And you can have multiple files. Like if you need them to upload 5 different things, you can have that in your form as unlimited files. Okay, and let's look at what we have. Clickable image. You can see a demo of that and the massage therapy video or intake form video, which is in the FAQ, and the rest of these. This is a separate tutorial. Let's be sure that I went over everything here. A form label is a unique identifier used um, in when you're it's only basically applicable for if you're converting to a PDF. In a fillable PDF, each form field in the PDF has a unique identifier. So if we want to auto convert our form to PDF after it's filled out, this will help us identify which fields to that our automated process will insert that data into. It's also used for other things like maintaining session. So if you have a multi-page form, and it does happen, sometimes you have a page 3 in a form that has a question that was already asked on page 1. And to make it easier for the user, you want to pre-populate that value with what they entered on page 1. So on the question on page 1 will do first name. You want to make sure you maintain this in the session. So let's find that. We'll check that. Oh, if you're going to maintain it in the session, you need a form label. So that's why that's appropriate. So let's give it a form label. Each form label should be unique. And then on a separate page, if you want to pre-populate another text box field with that value, we'll add it to medical history. And then in here, you would select, you want to give it a default value, which is from the first page, the first name from the first page. You can also make the value read only. There are cases where that would be appropriate, to where the user won't even be able to modify what's there because you pre-populated with the previous value, and then click Save. And then there's your field. If you made it read only, it won't be available for the user to fill, but it will be pre-populated with the value from the previous page. So let's go over lead conversion fields. So when you're setting up forms, you can use your forms for lead conversion. You may have a form on your web page that's used for collecting leads. So you can even configure your contact us form to capture it as a lead. So anything that is captured as a lead in your web form will be available. The lead will become available in your user lead manager. We lost our session, so let me log back in. Okay, we're back in. So your user lead manager will have all your leads and their email and their phone number, and you can send them mass emails or text them from your dashboard or from your manager. So if we want to collect, if you want to convert it to a lead, we probably want to add lead fields. So we'll add an email. Sorry, we want to do an email text box. And then in lead user conversion, we want to flag that field as an email. So all of these are lead conversion fields. What that means is all of these fields are available in the user lead manager. So when you click on add user or edit, you'll see those fields here. So some fields you might not have visible according to what module you're using. Like if you're using massage therapists, they are interested in occupation or date of birth. So those are lead collection flagged as lead conversion fields because they'll be carried over to your user lead manager when the user submits the form. So this is an email, and you can't select multiple checkboxes. You have to, reserve only one field in the form as an email. Nothing else can be an email. And then you're going to click Save. So we need to choose a section first, and then Save. So when you're doing lead conversion from web forms, email is required. So you must have an email, at least the email, or it won't be converted over. So And then when the user, again, when the user submits the form, you will see their record in your user lead manager so that you can do other things to manage your leads. In the lead form, you can flag them if they gave a wrong number. It does happen, or a wrong email. You can flag that you've contacted them and the last contact date. If you have the setting on, for this demo, the setting isn't on, you will be able to click on the name and write notes about the person, internal notes, and there'll be a history of notes for that person. And maybe we'll demo that in another video. Okay, so that is the purpose of lead user conversion fields. So again, the different types, we can collect their first name, last name, just add that type of field and then flag it. A cell phone number, a home number, an email, preferred method of communication, business name, website. So these are all the different fields that you can flag that will be carried over to user lead manager. You just have to add a field on your form to represent that field. Let's see what's in email settings. For email settings, this is appropriate for like HIPAA compliance. If you're asking for medical information, you can choose to exclude certain other sensitive data from email, because for HIPAA compliance, email isn't considered secure. So you can exclude it from the email results that are emailed to your inbox, and then you can like leave the first couple of fields that aren't sensitive, and you'll get a notification that the person submitted the form. And then you can, if you want to see the rest of the information, you'll log into your secure dashboard to see that information. We've gone over this and this. You can, if you're not using multiple pages, you can hide the sections. If you hide the sections, or you already have sections set up, if you choose that, this entire area will disappear and it'll just be a plain form, with your header. And we didn't put a header up here, so let's put a header. So your header will be here, and your form, it'll be sent justified to the left, and this will not be here. So we'll end here, and there'll be other tutorials on specific things, or they already exist. We already have a tutorial on multi-group questions. If you want a tutorial on a specific thing, go to your dashboard and click on the FAQ, and you can email us a question, and if appropriate, we can create a video tutorial for you. We'll answer the question for you, but it'll trigger us to do a video tutorial. We do have some tutorials in the FAQ as well, so be sure and check that. If you need support, click support, or contact your project manager through the phone number or email given to you in your startup email. That will end this tutorial, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch, and we'll see you in the next video.